The meeting under two moons, the night was silent on the edge of the human outpost. Twin moons floated in the sky, their silver light falling on the barren alien desert. The settlement was quiet, but one man stayed awake. He sat near the broken fence of the colony, watching the horizon with tired eyes. His name was Daniel, a worker sent to repair water systems on this strange world. He was alone, far from Earth, carrying the weight of endless duty. That was when he heard it, a soft rustle, a sound that did not belong to the desert wind. His hand moved to his torch, and he shined it toward the dark rocks. At first, nothing moved. Then out from the shadow stepped a figure, tall, slim, but not human. Her ears twitched under the moonlight, long furred ears like a wolf's standing proud on her head. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, and her hair shimmered as if it caught the starlight itself. She wore simple leather straps, alien-made, and her tail swayed behind her nervously. She was not fully beast, not fully human, but something in between. Daniel froze. He had heard rumors of the locals, half-human, half-animal tribes who lived away from the colony. But he never expected to see one so close. The girl tilted her head, sniffing the air, then spoke in broken human words. "You human?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Yes, I am." Her ears twitched again as if testing the sound of his voice. Slowly, she stepped closer. The torchlight touched her face, revealing beauty that was both wild and strange. Her skin was pale, her features sharp, but her eyes held a deep sadness. "Water," she whispered. Her voice cracked, weak from thirst. "Please." "Water." Daniel's heart tightened. He had seen desperate colonists before, but this was different. She wasn't lying. Her lips were dry, her breath uneven. Without thinking, he pulled the flask from his belt and handed it to her. The girl hesitated only for a second before drinking. Her throat moved quickly, every swallow desperate. When she finished, she let out a low sigh, a sound almost like a whimper. "Thank you." For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Daniel wanted to ask questions. Who was she? Why was she here? Was she dangerous? But instead, he only said, "You shouldn't be here. The patrols will find you." Her golden eyes met his. "I must hide. I cannot go back," he frowned. "Go back where?" She didn't answer. Her tail flicked, her ears lowered. The girl seemed torn between fear and hope. Then softly she said, "Human, kind you. Different." Daniel wasn't sure what she meant, but the way she looked at him made his chest feel heavy. She wasn't just asking for water. She was asking for trust. The colony rules were clear. No contact with alien tribes. Yet here she was, trembling before him, half-starved and alone. Something in her eyes, something fragile, made him break the rule without a second thought. "You can stay. For tonight," he said quietly. "But you have to keep hidden." Her ears rose slightly. Relief shone in her gaze. She nodded. And for the first time, Daniel saw the faintest smile touch her lips. That night, he led her to an old storage shed near the fence. It was dusty, forgotten, but safe. He gave her a blanket and a little more water. She curled up in the corner, her tail wrapping around her like a shield. Daniel sat across from her, watching in silence. The more he looked, the more questions filled his mind. Who was she? Why did she run? And why, despite all danger, did he feel drawn to protect her? The girl's breathing slowed as she drifted into sleep. But before her eyes closed completely, she whispered something in her own tongue, a soft murmur full of pain and longing. Daniel did not understand the words, but he felt them, deep inside, and as the twin moons moved slowly across the sky, he realized one truth. This encounter was not chance. It was the beginning of something he could not yet imagine, something that would change both their lives forever. Secrets in the dark, the next morning came with the harsh light of a red dawn. The colony woke to the sound of engines, workers moving, machines grinding, but Daniel's thoughts were elsewhere. His eyes kept drifting toward the storage shed near the fence. Inside, she was waiting. When Daniel entered, the girl's ears twitched. She was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the dusty floor, tail resting across her knees. She no longer looked weak from thirst. Instead, her golden eyes studied him carefully as though weighing his soul. "You came back," she said softly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Of course I did. I promised you could stay the night." Her lips curved in a strange smile, half grateful, half mocking. "Humans break promises. You did not." He didn't know how to answer. Instead, he handed her a small package of food. "Eat this. It's not much, but better than nothing." The girl sniffed the ration bar suspiciously, then bit into it. Her sharp teeth broke the tough texture with ease. She chewed slowly, her ears flicking back as if listening for unseen dangers. "Why are you here?" Daniel finally asked. "If the patrols catch you, they won't be kind." The girl's gaze darkened. She looked down, avoiding his eyes. For a long time she said nothing. Then, in a low voice, she whispered, "I cannot return to tribe." Daniel leaned forward. "Why not?" She hugged her knees tighter. "They hunt me, say I betrayed blood." He blinked. "Betrayed? How?" Her eyes lifted to meet his, filled with something heavy, shame, fear, and defiance all at once. "Because I met human before." Daniel's chest tightened. "Another human?" She shook her head slowly. "Long ago. Before you came, one of your kind. Crash ship near desert. I find him. I save him. Tribe say no. They hate humans, but I choose." Her voice broke, tail curling around her tightly. "They cast me out. Said I am no longer of them." Daniel stared at her. The pieces started to connect. This girl was not simply wandering. She was in exile. And not because of war or hunger, but because she once reached out in kindness. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why risk so much for us?" The girl tilted her head, studying him as though the answer should be obvious. "Because humankind is different. Not like others. You fight, yes. You destroy, yes. But also you give. You share. You bleed for each other. I saw. I believed." Her words struck him harder than he expected. She had chosen trust, and it had cost her everything. For a while, silence filled the shed. Only the sound of machines from the colony carried faintly through the walls. Finally, Daniel spoke again. "What's your name?" The girl's ears twitched. "Name. Is Lyra?" "Lyra," Daniel repeated. It felt strange but warm on his tongue. Her eyes softened. "And you?" "Daniel." For the first time she smiled fully. A real smile, bright and alive. "Daniel," she whispered. "Good name." Over the next days, Daniel kept her hidden. He smuggled food and water, making excuses whenever anyone asked why he looked tired. At night, he returned to the shed where Lyra waited. They spoke in broken words at first, then longer sentences. Slowly, trust grew, but danger always hovered near. One evening, as Daniel walked back from the shed, he heard voices near the fence. 2 patrol guards stood there, scanning the desert with flashlights. "Tracks again," one said. "Not animal, too big. Something sneaking close." "Alien tribe, maybe," the other muttered. "If command finds out, they'll sweep this area. Burn it clean." Daniel's heart raced. He knew whose tracks they had seen. If they searched further, Lyra would be discovered. He forced himself to walk past calmly, nodding to the guards, hiding the storm inside his chest. But the fear didn't leave him. It only grew stronger. That night in the shed, he told Lyra what he overheard. Her ears flattened. Her tail lashed once, sharp with alarm. "They know," she whispered. Daniel nodded grimly. "It's not safe anymore. If they catch you here, I must leave," she said quickly. Her voice was strong, but her hands trembled. "I cannot bring death to you." Daniel looked at her for a long time. Leaving would save him, but something inside screamed against it. He couldn't let her vanish into the desert again, alone, hunted. "No," he said finally. "We'll find another way." Her golden eyes widened. Why risk for me?" He didn't answer right away. His chest tightened, his throat dry. At last, he said, "Because you're not just an exile. You're a person. And you trusted me when no one else did." Lyra's breath caught. For a moment, the air between them grew heavy, charged. She stared at him, and in her eyes was something fierce, something wild, something almost human. Then softly she whispered, "Daniel, you do not know. You do not understand yet." Before he could ask what she meant, she leaned closer, her hand brushing his. A silent promise, a hidden truth. And in that moment, though he didn't yet know the full weight of her secret, Daniel realized one thing. Their lives had already become tied together. Unbreakable. The hunt begins. The desert night grew colder, sharper. The colony patrols had doubled since the tracks were found. Lights scanned across the sand like blades, and every sound felt like a warning. Daniel kept his face calm during the day, but inside his chest his heart hammered with fear. Lyra sensed it too. Her ears were always twitching, her tail restless. She no longer slept deeply in the shed. Every time the faint crunch of boots came near, Her body stiffened like a hunted creature. "They are close," she whispered one night, her voice trembling. "Too close. They smell me," Daniel tried to steady her. "They don't know you're here. I'll keep you safe," but even as he spoke, he doubted himself. The colony rules were iron. Aliens were not to be sheltered, not to be trusted. If they found her, both of them would be punished. Maybe worse. The next day, Daniel carried tools toward the water pumps when he spotted 2 guards near the fence. They were kneeling, studying the sand. "Fresh prints," one said. "Not from a colonist." Daniel froze, his stomach twisting. He realized too late that Lyra's movements to the shed had left marks again. The guard stood. "Command will want this. If it's an exile from the alien tribes, they'll want her captured alive. Could be useful," the other guard smirked. "Or experimented on. Either way, we'll get promoted." Daniel forced himself to keep walking, tools in hand, but his jaw clenched so hard it hurt. That night, when he reached the shed, his face was pale. "They found your trail," he told Lyra. Her golden eyes widened. "Then it ends." "I must run." "No," Daniel said quickly, too quickly. "If you run into the desert, you won't survive. They'll chase you. You need someone who knows the patrol routes, someone who can hide you." Her ears lowered. "You will risk everything." Daniel didn't hesitate. Yes, for hours they planned. Daniel mapped out the old supply tunnels beneath the colony, passages no longer used but still intact. If they moved carefully, Lyra could slip beyond the fences unseen. But as they spoke, Daniel noticed something strange. Lyra's hands kept drifting to her stomach. She did it without thinking, touch, rest, withdraw. Again and again. Finally, he asked, "Are you hurt?" She froze. Her ears pressed flat. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then in a whisper so low he almost missed it, she answered, "Not hurt, but secret." Daniel frowned. "Secret?" Her golden eyes locked on his, shining with something he couldn't name. "You will know soon, but not yet." The following night, Daniel led her into the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling as they moved, the air thick and dry. Their footsteps echoed softly in the narrow dark. More than once, Lyra stumbled. Her breathing grew heavier, slower. Daniel offered his hand, steadying her. She gripped it tightly, her claws grazing his skin, but she did not let go. At one point, she whispered, "Daniel, you do not understand. When I said I cannot return to tribe, it was not only exile, it was blood. My blood changed." He looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" But she shook her head, ears flat. Later, when safe. Behind them, faint echoes carried through the tunnels, boots striking stone, voices calling. "They're in here." Daniel cursed under his breath. The patrols had tracked them faster than expected. He pulled Lyra forward, guiding her through twists and turns until at last a faint shaft of moonlight appeared ahead. The exit. They pushed through broken stones and emerged into the open desert. The air was cold and sharp, the moons bright above them. For a moment, relief washed through Daniel's chest, but then he saw movement on the ridge. Flashlights, shadows of soldiers. They had been surrounded. Lyra's ears shot up, her body tensed like a cornered wolf. But instead of panic, her gaze softened as she looked at Daniel. "If they take me," she whispered, "they will learn truth. You must know before they do." Daniel's pulse pounded. "What truth?" Her tail curled close, her voice shaking but steady. "You gave me water. You gave me trust. But before you, long ago, I met another of your kind. His blood mixed with mine. My tribe cast me out. But what lives now inside me," she placed her hand on her stomach, golden eyes glistening, "is not only mine. It is yours as well." Daniel's world stopped. The patrol lights drew closer, but all he could see was her hand on her stomach. All he could hear was her trembling voice. "You are the father. A choice against the stars." The desert wind howled across the sand as the patrol lights closed in. The soldiers moved carefully, rifles raised, voices sharp as they spread in a wide circle. There was no escape. Daniel stood frozen, his mind spinning. Lyra's words echoed louder than the shouts of the patrol. "You're the father." He looked at her, at the way her hand pressed against her stomach, at the fear in her golden eyes. She wasn't lying. Her body trembled, but her voice had been steady when she said it. Something was inside her, something born from both human and alien blood. One of the patrols shouted, "We see you! Step away from the alien and surrender." Lyra's ears flattened, her tail bristling like a cornered wolf. She crouched low, ready to fight, but Daniel knew she couldn't win. If she fought, she would die. And if she was captured, both she and the unborn child would become subjects of cold experiments. His hands clenched into fists. He had sworn never to break colony law, never to fight his own kind. But now, it wasn't about law. It was about life. About her. About what they had created together. The patrols moved closer, flashlights cutting across their faces. A soldier barked, "Human!" "Step aside. The alien belongs to command." Daniel's voice came out hoarse. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The soldiers hesitated. His tone wasn't defiance they expected. It was something deeper, protective, unyielding. The lead guard narrowed his eyes. "You've broken code. You'll be arrested too." Daniel stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. His chest tightened, but his voice didn't shake. "Then arrest me, but you're not touching her." Behind him, Lyra's breath caught. She had expected him to abandon her. Instead, he chose her. The soldiers raised their weapons. The desert air grew tense, sharp as glass. Then something happened. Lyra's eyes flared gold, brighter than before. She stepped beside Daniel, her hand gripping his arm. A low guttural sound rumbled in her chest. Not human, not animal, but something in between. It carried across the sands like thunder. The soldiers faltered. Their lights wavered. Daniel glanced at her, stunned. "What are you?" Her voice came low and fierce. "My kind protect blood, even when cast out. Tonight I fight not as exile, but as mother." Her claws flexed, her body trembling with power she had tried to hide. The air itself seemed to hum around her. Daniel's breath caught. This wasn't just survival. This was transformation. The first soldier lunged forward. Daniel reacted without thought, swinging the heavy tool he still carried. It cracked against the man's armor, sending him staggering back. Gunfire erupted, bright streaks flashing in the night. Daniel dove, pulling Lyra with him. Sand exploded around them, but she moved like lightning. With a snarl, she leapt forward, knocking a soldier flat, her claws tearing the rifle from his hands. The desert became chaos. Shouts, gunfire, the metallic clang of weapons. Daniel fought with desperate strength, his body fueled not by training but by raw will. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. But tonight he was something more. He was a father protecting his family. At last, silence. The last soldier lay unconscious in the sand. The others had fled, dragging their wounded, too shaken by the wild fury of the girl who was no longer just an exile. Daniel stood, chest heaving, sweat and dust covering his face. His arms trembled from the fight. Beside him, Lyra knelt on the sand, her breathing heavy. Blood stained her side where a shot had grazed her, but her golden eyes still glowed fiercely. She looked at Daniel, and for a moment the whole galaxy seemed to fall away. "You fought for me," she whispered. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, gripping her shoulders. "No, I fought for us." Her lips parted, trembling. Then slowly she pressed her forehead to his. "Then you understand. What lives inside me is not curse, it is hope. Hope for human, hope for my kind." Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time he did understand. Their bond was no longer chance, it was defiance, it was survival, it was love. But in the distance, alarms blared from the colony walls. More soldiers would come, stronger ones. This battle was only the beginning. Daniel pulled Lyra to her feet, his grip firm. "We can't stay here. We have to go farther. Somewhere they can't reach us." Lyra's ears flicked, her tail wrapping around his waist as if to anchor herself to him. Her voice, though weak, held fire. "Then we go. Together. Always." Blood of two worlds, the desert stretched endless before them. For days, Daniel and Lyra moved across the sands, guided only by the twin moons above. He carried what little supplies he could while she pressed onward despite the wound at her side. The closer they came to the mountains beyond the colony's reach, the more Daniel hoped they could vanish. But the colony did not forget. At dawn on the fourth day, the roar of engines broke the silence. Ships swept low across the horizon, dust clouds rising in their wake. The colony had sent not just patrols but an entire strike force. Lyra's ears twitched, her tail bristling. "They come," she whispered. Daniel's chest tightened. He could see it in her eyes. Fear, yes, but also determination. She wasn't running for herself anymore. She was running for what lived inside her, for their child. He gripped her hand firmly. Then we make our stand. The strike force landed in a storm of sand and metal. Soldiers poured out, rifles ready, armored and faceless beneath their helmets. A commanding officer stepped forward, his voice sharp through a loudspeaker. "Human worker, step away from the alien. You have violated colony law. Surrender now or be executed." Daniel stood tall, his arm around Lyra. He shouted back, his voice raw but strong. "She's not your prisoner. She's not your test subject. She is mine, and I am hers." The officer's voice hardened. "You protect her at the cost of your own life? For a hybrid mistake?" At that word, mistake, Lyra's golden eyes flared. Her tail lashed, her claws flexed, but Daniel held her close. He looked at the officer, his voice steady with a fire none of them expected. "She's carrying life, a child of two worlds. Not a mistake, proof that we can be more than enemies." The soldiers wavered. Some lowered their weapons slightly, unsure. No training had prepared them for this. One of their own declaring loyalty not to command but to an exile, and to a child born of both. The officer snarled. "This is treason." He raised his rifle. "Then you both die here." The world slowed. Daniel saw the gun aimed at Lyra. He didn't think. He moved. His body collided with hers, pushing her to the ground. A single shot rang out. Pain ripped across his shoulder. The force threw him down into the sand. "Daniel!" Lyra's cry split the air. Her hands gripped him, trembling, desperate. But before the officer could fire again, something inside her broke free. Her eyes blazed brighter than fire. She rose to her feet, standing over Daniel, and let out a sound that shook the air. A cry that was not human, not animal, but something new. Something powerful. The soldiers froze. Their weapons trembled. Even the officer stepped back. Lyra's voice carried like thunder. "You call my child mistake. You are wrong. This blood, our blood, will unite what you tried to divide. You fear it because you know. A new future begins here." Her hand pressed to her stomach, her golden gaze sweeping across the soldiers. "This child is hope." For a long moment no one moved. The desert wind howled between them, and then, one by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. Not out of obedience, but because they understood. They saw the fire in her eyes, the strength in Daniel's stand, and something shifted. The officer, furious, raised his rifle again, but no one followed him. He stood alone, his power broken by a single truth. The galaxy was already changing. Daniel, bleeding but alive, reached for Lyra's hand. She knelt beside him, pressing her forehead to his. "You are father," she whispered, her voice trembling with love. "And I am yours?" He smiled weakly, pain burning through him, but his heart steady. "Then we face the future together, no matter what comes." The soldiers did not stop them as they walked past. None dared. For in that moment everyone knew this was no ordinary pair. They were the beginning of something greater. As the twin moons shone down on the desert, Daniel and Lyra disappeared into the horizon, two figures bound by blood, by trust, and by a love that stunned the galaxy itself. Not because humanity fought with fire, not because it conquered with weapons, but because, when faced with fear and exile, a human had chosen compassion, and that compassion created life. Life that would change the stars forever.